Hello friends, I'm going to do a walkthrough of my favorite albums. There's a stack that is always out that I'm always pulling from. It kind of changes here and there, but for the most part it's pretty consistent. And someone on my TikTok asked me to do a walkthrough, so I'm going to do that for you. So this is my favorites of the end of 2020, start of 2021. Alright, first up we have the Allman Brothers Band, Brothers and Sisters, and also Allman Brothers at Fillmore East. I love both these albums. Allman Brothers was introduced to me by my mom. There's a bunch of albums in here that I got inspired by her collection to purchase for my own. I'm not going to highlight all of them that way, but there are a lot in here. There's a video up here that kind of walks you through which albums I picked from her collection. Next up, we have Louis Armstrong's A Rare Batch of Satch and his Greatest Hits album. One of the record stores I go to a lot, they bought an entire collection of Louis Armstrong. I will most likely go back and buy even more because I'm very in love with this artist right now. I don't know if it's the wintry snow that we keep getting here in Ohio or what it is, but it's just really hit me right here and I'm loving it. So these were both $3 and $4, very cheap and very well worth it. Next up we have Bad Company by Bad Company and also their album Straight Shooter. I enjoy both of these. Bad Company's another band that my mom introduced me to, and she also introduced me to Bachman Turner Overdrive, which Not Fragile is one of the albums I was inspired by her collection to buy. Then we have my stack of Beatles, which includes Revolver, the Beatles' 1967 to 1970 Blue Album, Abbey Road, Magical Mystery Tour, and Sgt. Pepper's. Now, I have, I think, even more than this back in my archives, but these are my favorites, and I mean, it's the Beatles, so don't have to explain that. Next up, we have Sidney Bechet. This isn't the album that I would necessarily keep in my favorites forever. There's an album that I'm very much looking for. I'm hoping to find it this year. I'll keep you updated, but for now, this is the one that I have. Then we have my Black Sabbath albums, which are Paranoid and Master of Reality. You know. Okay, so then we have Boston. Self-titled album. Again, my mom introduced me to Boston, and I'm eternally grateful. Changes One Bowie is one of the albums that I was most excited to find last year, and I found it like a couple days before the year ended, so I got it just in under the wire, and I've absolutely love this album. It's just, yeah. Jackson Browne, The Pretender. This album was given to me both by Lori, who gave me her entire collection. She mailed me over 150 albums, and I'm eternally grateful, but it was also gifted to me by one of my Patreon subscribers. I don't know, I think it's a rare experience to have someone, like a stranger, mail you an album, but to have two strangers mail me the same album, I felt like it was really kismet, and I ended up really loving this album. I'm very grateful. Next we have Ray Charles, A Man and His Soul. This is a greatest hits album, and it's got some of my favorite songs. Unchained My Heart is probably my favorite Ray Charles song of all time. I've seen a few copies of this here in Ohio. They've all been under $5, so this is one of those albums that if you can come across it, it's usually pretty cheap. So I would highly recommend grabbing that. And then also Chicago's Greatest Hits, because you can't go wrong with Chicago. Next, we have my stack of Childish Gambino, which includes Camp, Because the Internet, which is a 2020 reissue, and Awaken My Love. These are really the only new albums that I have, just because I love this artist and I was really afraid that I wouldn't find their records later on in life, and I wanted to get them just so I have them in case I can't find them in the future. Alright, so we have Love It to Death by Alice Cooper. It says on the front, including their hit, I'm 18. I think it's the only song I knew off the album when I first bought it, but I fell in love with Caught in a Dream and Long Way to Go, and it immediately became one of my favorites. I think I bought that for $4, so I would highly recommend picking up a copy if you find one. They're usually relatively cheap. I found that the 70s albums tend to have the most quantity. There tends to be a lot of them pressed, so they're a little bit easier to find, which means they're a little bit cheaper, and so if you can find a copy, highly recommend. Next up, we have the Best of Deep Purple. This album was given to me by the person that I bought the turntable and amplifier from. They found out that I loved classic rock, and they had this album and they're like, here, I want you to have it. So I'm very grateful. Then we have the Eagles, both One of These Nights and Hotel California. My mom turned me on to the Eagles, but did not give me any from them, so I had to pick those up myself. But I actually bought her a copy of One of These Nights too, from the same place. So I gave back. Then we have Ella Loves Cole and Ella Sings Gershwin. I didn't know much about Ella Fitzgerald, at least until I bought these albums, and they immediately became some of my favorites. A lot of people on TikTok asked me to put on Ella Fitzgerald, and I'm very grateful that they kind of gave me that push. They specifically asked for Ella and Louis albums, which I don't have, but I think that was the initial push for me to buy albums by both of those artists, and I'm very grateful because right now is, I don't know if it's the snow, I don't know if it's just the winter, or if I'm just sappy because of there not being any sun and I'm just feeling my emotions, but I'm really in love with what I'm listening to right now. Then we have Aretha and Al Green. Much like Ella, I'm just feeling my emotions. I'm feeling the warm feelings from them rather than from the sun. All right, I gotta move this stack because I don't like them laying down. When I'm making these videos, I try to not lay them down for too long. I know a few of you have commented about how that's bad for the records. You're right. It's just very convenient when making these videos. Next, we have George Harrison's, I think this is Living in a Material World. Yep. Great album. I think George is the best Beatle. That's just my opinion. And this is the best album I've heard by him so far. Then we have Heart, Little Queen. These ladies are badass. Full stop. I have a few Jimi Hendrix albums. These two are my favorite. We have Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced, and Hendrix in the West, which is a live album. This album and the Allman Brothers Fillmore East album were the ones that turned me on to live albums, and I actually started to like them. Then we have Billie Holiday. This is like a greatest hits type album. I love the screen printing-esque cover on here, and that's what really sold me on buying this specific album. I tend to go in buying albums blind, so this was a blind purchase, and it is absolutely lovely. Next we have Michael Jackson's Thriller. Needs no explanation, but I will say that I had a copy. It was one of the first albums I ever bought, and within the many moves and roommates and all that, I don't know where my copy went, so this is a replacement copy. Next up is Etta James At Last. This is a new album. I tend not to buy new albums, but I'm in love with this record, and I hadn't seen it used up until this point, so I bought it because it was only $16.50. I saw a used copy, I think, shortly thereafter, but I have it, and I'm grateful to have it. Next we have Cheap Thrills by Janis Joplin. What is it? What's the name of the song? Okay, we'll find it. Summertime's a great song, but I was looking for Piece of My Heart. There we go. I was looking for Piece of My Heart on a record, and so had to grab this one, and there's so many great songs on this album. Next we have Hot Fuss by The Killers. This album I bought used from Depop. I think I bought for $15 with shipping. Very worth it. It's beat to hell because the person that had it before me, the kid that I bought it from, loved this album. You can tell they loved it. I'm not sure why they wanted to get rid of it, but they sold it to me for $15 with shipping, and I didn't question it. All right, I love the film About Time. In that film, the father mentions that he's only loved 3 men in his life, and one of them is B.B. King. And I was like, ooh, he's got some swagger to him. I want to check out B.B. King, and I'm so glad I did. And B.B. King has become, I keep saying that he's become one of my favorite artists because these are my favorites. So obviously one of my favorite artists, but this album's $8, a little on the high end for my usual purchasing, but I bought it. And Summer in the City, check that out. Highly recommend. Next up we have Lana Del Rey, Born to Die. I know there's controversy. I know that some people will say that newer music isn't as good as older music. I don't care. This album's fun. I like it. Next up is my Led Zeppelin section. We've got House of Holy, Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 3, and Led Zeppelin 4. Or my Discogs labeled this as Untitled, so I'm not sure if that's Led Zeppelin 4 or if it's actually called Untitled. But either way, I love all of his albums, and the one that I think is Zeppelin 4 is my favorite of them all. But I am falling in love with Zeppelin 1 right now. Then we have The Birth of the Blues, which when I bought this album, thought it was a blues album. It's more of a jazz piano album, if my memory serves me. I don't love the color scheme. I think this is a terrible album for its contents, but the music is just amazing. Queen, Greatest Hits, I don't need to explain. In Radios by Radiohead. This is my favorite Radiohead album. I believe I bought this new, but this album is probably close to 10 years old right now. At least the copy that I have, at least. Not sure if that would be qualified as new anymore. Next up, we have Bonnie Raitt's self-titled album. Then we have Redbone, Message from a Drum. This was included on my 30 albums I listened to in 30 days video, and as soon as I heard it, the first song that came on, I was hooked. So I'm gonna look out for more Redbone albums, but that's the only one I have right now. Then we have Santo and Johnny. I bought this from my favorite record store. I was in there shopping one day and they had this on. I was like, what is this? What is this? And they told me, and they're like, I think we have another copy over in the new arrivals. And they did, and now I own it. And that was, again, I think 10 years ago. Simon and Garfunkel's Greatest Hits. I believe I got this at a warehouse sale for 50 cents. I used to not like Greatest Hits albums. I used to be completely against them. But as I age, I find a great appreciation for them, especially Simon and Garfunkel, because I didn't really know a lot about them when I listened to this album. I had other albums by them. This was the first one I listened to, and I didn't realize I knew so many of their songs. So I was very grateful for the Greatest Hits album, and I think that's kind of helped me appreciate them a little bit more. Here's the final stack. We have Frank Sinatra's Strangers in the Night. This has Summer Wind on it. That is my favorite Frank Sinatra song of all time. Then we have Frank Sinatra, Try a Little Tenderness. This was $5 at Half Price Books, very overpriced. I believe this album should have been sold for $1, but it is my favorite, and I think $5 is a worthwhile investment for my favorite Frank Sinatra album. Then we have Tina Turner, Working on It. Tina Turner does not get enough recognition. I know that they are a very successful artist, but they deserve even more recognition for just how talented and incredible they are as artists. Then we have Master Jazz Piano Volume 1. This is just an album full of very talented individuals playing the piano. I believe there's some solo piano and there's also some accompaniment. It's one of those albums you can put on while you're cooking or cleaning the house, and it just fills the entire house with this like warm atmosphere. So I really love this album. Paid $2.50 for it. Next up we have Hawaii Five-0, The Ventures. I bought this album specifically because Let the Sunshine In is on it. That is my favorite song of all time. Well, that's a bold claim, but I would back it up most days. I saw that they had a cover of it on here, and The Ventures was one of my uncle's favorite bands before he passed away. Then we have Dinah by Dinah Washington. A handful of wonderful people on TikTok recommended that I look into Dinah, and thank you so much because I love this album. Then we have Jack White's, I don't remember the name of this album. Lazaretto. Okay, we have Jack White's Lazaretto. I always want to call this one Blunderbuss, but it's not that. I do have Blunderbuss though, but this is my favorite of the two. I absolutely love the entire first side of this album. I think the packaging and the design of the actual record is just phenomenal, and I like that there's starting to get some wear on this. I love when my albums start to get like discolored and there's little like fadings and there's a crack up here. Oh, I love things being used and aging. I'm a big fan of things aging. Amy Winehouse, Back in Black. I bought this off of a child on Depop as well. I think this was also $15 with shipping. I don't know why these youngins want to sell me their records for so cheap, but I'm very grateful because this is just, every time I listen to it, it makes me both very happy and very sad because I miss Amy. I mean, it's strange to say you miss someone you don't know, but I do, just because I feel like we would have so much more art from this human being if they were still around. So, very grateful to have that album. Then we have The Who, Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy. I bought this because it was $5 and I didn't really have any Who albums. And I was like, you know what, I'm looking for Magic Bus, but I'll buy this in the interim. I ended up liking this album better than Magic Bus, and there's just so many great songs on here. I would say I Can See for Miles. If you're gonna look up a song from the album, look that one up. And finally, we have Band of the Run by Paul McCartney and Wings. This was one of the first albums I listened to from that collection my mom gave me all those years ago, and it's still one of my favorites. And I'm just very thankful. And I'm thankful for you for watching this far. If you want to watch some of my other videos, here's one that I think you'll like. Here's one that YouTube thinks you'll like. I also have a Patreon where I have a list of every record I own if you want to go through that. And other than that, just have a wonderful day.